Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, September 10th. This is episode 381 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. Today, we've got some more reaction, more thoughts, some solid clips to get to after a tough week one opening night loss last night against the San Francisco 49ers on the road. The New York Jets fall to 0-1 and will now shift their focus quickly on a short week to a Sunday afternoon matchup in Tennessee against the Titans before coming home 9 days from now to face the New England Patriots in their home opener on Thursday night. We will break down all angles of some of the Saleh's quotes. We'll get to some more defensive line talk. We'll also talk and look a little bit ahead here for the New York Jets and what they need to do moving forward. Now, before we get to any of that, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. Football is here. Football is off and running. Week one is in the books. Thursday night, Bills, Dolphins right around the corner. We are almost into week number 2. And there's no better way to get in on the NFL action all season long, or college football action, or MLB playoffs. All sports, all season long, all the time at BetUS, where the games begin. It's America's favorite online sportsbook. Plus, my viewers, use my link, which can be found in the description of this video, to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek. You want to get out to the Jets home opener? There is no better spot to get your ticket than over at SeatGeek, where you know where the good deals are. Look for the green dots. Those are the good deals. Those are the right prices. Those are the tickets you want. And when you find a green dot, when you find a seat you like at checkout, use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. And, of course, our friends over at Huga House. Aaron Rodgers came out of the game healthy last night. You want any of the hats he's wearing all the time? Use promo code BUBS for 15% off any purchase. All of those links can be found in the description of this video. So today, going to break down some solid quotes, talk a little bit more about the defense, the defensive line, and then we'll kind of look ahead here to Tennessee and what the Jets need to do moving forward to get the bad taste out of their mouth from a disappointing opening night loss last night against the 49ers, losing by, of course, 32-19 on the road. And today was tough. Today's tough. I will admit, today is frustrating. It's annoying. It's just all the excitement going into training camp, healthy training camp, all the excitement, all the buildup going into last night. We've been waiting a year since the injury to see Aaron Rodgers back in a Jets uniform, hopefully stay healthy. He does, but all the hype, all the buildup, and you get smacked around. And you get smacked around in a way that I don't think many people saw coming. While we knew the Niners were going to be a tough challenge, we knew the Niners were going to be a difficult task, especially on the road. This was the team that was in the Super Bowl in February. All that being the case, they were without Christian McCaffrey, and the New York Jets let Jordan Mason run for a whole 147 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and got no pass rush. Purdy had all day, couldn't stop the run. The defense was awful. 30-plus points. Worst defensive outing I think we've seen since Saleh's first year, since 2022 and 2023, where this unit has turned into an elite unit. So definitely frustrating. And look, last night doing the recap late game, waking up on 5 hours of sleep is a lot harder when you lose than it is when you win. It's the first of hopefully not many of these kind of loser Tuesdays, loser Mondays, whatever you want to call them. Certainly not a victory Tuesday, certainly not a victory Monday. Hopefully we get ourselves our first victory Monday next week against the Titans. And they got a quick turnaround. They got to get ready for the Titans. But I want to get to some solid quotes here before we get into all that stuff a little bit later on. Saleh today spoke to the media, discussed what he felt went wrong on defense last night. Here's Saleh.
What was the biggest issue in the run defense?
I try to word this the right way. it wasn't for a lack of effort as much as it was from for guys just trying to do too much. When you play a team like San Francisco, they've been together 8 years. They're very precise in what they do. It's as simple as just do your job. Do your job, and we would have been in much better shape. Like I said, in the second half, I felt like we got to it. We played better in the run game. They had the one explosive, but it's going to get fixed. It's definitely going to get fixed. I'm not discouraged in any way. Obviously, they executed a hell of a lot better than we did, and we'll be better for it.
So there's Saleh on what he felt went wrong last night with the defense, both from a run-stopping perspective and, of course, the truly lack of pressure, where the New York Jets really only, from my calculations and what I've seen, had just 3 pressures on Brock Purdy on 31 dropbacks. So for a defense that has been known as one of the elite front fours in football, to only have 3 pressures on 31 dropbacks in a game like that, where you got to get pressure on Purdy, you got to be able to give him a lot less time in the pocket. Of course, it's a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly what happened last night. It was a disaster. Saleh, of course, saying there he doesn't feel it's for a lack of effort. He feels it's guys doing a little too much, and has a ton of confidence in this group to turn it around. And that's where I want to play the next clip here. Saleh is not worried at all in this defense. He has a lot of confidence in this defense, and he believes things will get turned around after a rough night.
I know we're going to get the defense fixed. That is not a problem. If that's a problem, it's not a problem. And I know we're going to get a lot better from week 1 to week 2. We got a great opportunity this week against Tennessee on a short week. They were very unfortunate not to come away with the game, their game against Chicago, but and they've got a lot of really good pieces. They got one of the best O-line coaches in the history of football, who's given us fits over the last few years. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge. But like I said, guys, it's a 17-game season. Got 16 of these left, and getting the defense fixed is not going to be a problem.
So a lot of confidence there in Saleh. And look, I think if you're a Jets fan, this was very odd for the Jets defense. I think the Jets defense has done enough over the last 2 years, over the last 34 games, to prove that they're elite. This has been the one outlier. This isn't like they've been really bad. They've had a couple good performances. Now they're bad again. No, this has been arguably the best defense in the NFL over the last 2 years. They had one really poor performance last night in week 1 of the season against a really good offense. Yes, a backup running back, but it's still a great offense. Not making excuses for them. But of course, I don't think it's crazy. I don't think Jets fans, again, it's not panic time, hopefully. I think you got to have some belief and some optimism that Jeff Ulbrich and Robert Saleh, who have built this thing up to where it is now, should be able to get this defense turned around, especially when you look at some of the offenses coming up, where the Jets defense doesn't have to be dominant to contain Tennessee, New England, Cincinnati, or even Minnesota, their next 4 opponents, 2 of those coming at home, including New England, the home opener, of course. So you got to hope that, if they let up 30-plus points to Tennessee, then there's major, major problems. You should have no problem there. And I think these next couple weeks are not must wins, but they got to be wins. Like, if the Jets want to consider, like last night for the New York Jets was a test to see where they were against an elite team, against a Super Bowl contender. And they're still a ways away. Doesn't mean they can't get there by the end of the season, but that was last night, right? No more excuses. That's all out the window. You lose next week to Tennessee, 31-17, whatever. It's a disaster. Now you're 0-2. Now you're losing games to teams that aren't any good, and now things are becoming a problem. So this defense has to turn it around. They should turn it around, because if not, it's a serious problem. And when you look at the opponents they play, like I said, they shouldn't have a problem turning it around, because the teams coming up are very, very, very beatable, even if your defense isn't playing at their best, or the pass rush isn't 100%. Maybe they get Reddick in at some point, whatever the case may be. So that's Saleh. But hey, look, he's basically telling you it's not a problem. It's not a problem. So if it does turn into a problem, you're going to get hammered. And you're going to come back to this clip and say, he's putting a lot of confidence in that group. One thing he did say that I didn't understand, he's like, it's not a problem. If it's a problem, it's not a problem. It felt like he was going to say, if it's a problem, it's on me. I take blame. felt like he was going there, but then he goes, it's not a problem. If it's a problem, it's not a problem. So, another one of those head-scratching Saleh lines that you kind of just look at and you move on from. But that was Saleh on the defense, believes in it, believes this group will turn it around, and they've got to. And when you look at the opponents, they should be able to, because it shouldn't take much to defeat some of these teams coming up. I know it's the NFL any given Sunday, but if the Jets want to really consider themselves as a Super Bowl contender, I'm wasting time sitting here. If they want to be a Super Bowl contender, you should not have any problems taking care of business against the teams they've got coming up. Now, some things, of course, on the defensive line, and I mean, guys that need to step up. Look, of course, there is some questions outside of Quinn, no doubt. I didn't think Jermaine Johnson was particularly good last night. Unfortunately, I think he's a guy that a lot of Jets fans trust. I get it, it's only 1 week, but he wasn't very good. He had I think the biggest moment for him, the only time you really heard his name was the illegal hands to the face on the third down that gave San Francisco the automatic first down, I believe, in the second half. Might have been the first drive of the second half. Jets looked like they were going to get off the field, and then he gets hands to the face. Can't have that. Move the change, first down, undisciplined, inexcusable. Will McDonald didn't do a whole lot last night. Nobody really did. Let's be honest here. We talked about it. The sacks were basically just touching Purdy when he was on the ground. Sauce got credited with a sack. Tony Adams got credited with a sack, and Michael Clemens as well. That was when Purdy was kind of rolling to his left. He ended up just falling. Michael Clemens touched him. So there was really no actual sacks last night. There was no pressure. Like I said, Purdy 3 pressures on 31 dropbacks, and that's a concern. We know, because look, the Jets, right? You look at the defensive line, go back to the offseason. You lose JFM, you lose Quentin Jefferson, you lose Bryce Huff. Heck, you even lose Al Woods, who we saw last year. This isn't really from a pass protection standpoint, but from a run stop standpoint, Al Woods was a huge piece. And you saw when he went down last year with the torn Achilles that the run defense suffered a little bit. Wasn't as bad as it was last night, but it suffered a little bit. And they brought in Lecky Fotu as that big body run stuffer, and he's on IR. So they are missing some pieces. And especially from a pass rushing perspective, they're relying a lot on unproven talent. Tack McKinley, Braden McGregor, Michael Clemens, Will McDonald. They're relying on a lot of guys that haven't done anything. They're relying on guys that are unproven. And that's certainly a concern. Javon Kinlaw, obviously not enough last night. And it's something I'm curious to see if the Jets would ever think about doing. And I talked about it in the post-game show yesterday. And even during the game, as I'm sitting there, I'm like, why not try a blitz or two? Why not send the house, right? Leave your corners on an island. You trust your corners. I know it wasn't the best DJ Reed night, but Sauce, outside of the couple plays that he missed for what Saleh said, he was trying to catch a breath. Whether or not that's true, who knows? Either way, the plays that he was out, other than that, Sauce was out there. That really nice pass breakup against Brandon Ayuk didn't allow a single reception last night. That's how good Sauce Gardner continues to be. Continues to fly under the radar, I feel like. Every single game goes by, and it feels like Sauce Gardner, you don't talk about him, but it's because nobody's looking his way. And when they did look his way, he had a great pass breakup, of course, on Ayuk. But try a blitz. Blitz a little bit. I know this Jets defense doesn't blitz. They don't like the blitz. Jeff Ulbrich doesn't. They don't like to. Maybe that's wrong wording. They haven't had to. The Jets in the past, going back to last year and even 2022, have been good enough up front where they can just rush for and get to the quarterback just rushing for. You go back and look at last year, the Jets blitzed 98 times. That's the lowest amount in the NFL. They were the only team in the NFL last year to blitz under 100 times. 98 times across 17 games is about 5 blitzes a game, which is nothing. Those 98 blitzes accumulated to a 16.3% blitz percentage, which ranks second least in the NFL and least in the AFC. So they're not a team that blitzes. But last night, they didn't even blitz. They didn't even attempt to blitz. So potentially going into Tennessee, something that I might have wanted to see last night, something that if Reddick's still not here and you can't generate a pass rush, try and blitz, especially against a quarterback like Will Levis, who is still young. And if he's got pressure in his face, He's only played 10 games. He made some killer mistakes in Chicago. The killer pick six that gave Chicago the lead late in that game in the fourth quarter. Right? You get pressure in Will Levis's face. He's set in the house. You can get some pressure there. You can force him into some mistakes. So that's an adjustment I wouldn't be against seeing. Because the bottom line is 3 pressures on 31 dropbacks is inexcusable. And from a running perspective, 180 yards on the ground, 4.7 yards per carry, 147 yards allowed against Jordan Mason, the backup to Christian McCaffrey, is beyond pathetic. There's no other way to spin it. And if just rushing 4 with this unit's not good enough, you got to find other ways. Because you can't let this to happen every single week, especially when you get to these inferior opponents. Tennessee being one of them coming up. So those are some more points on the defensive side of the football that I wanted to get to. As for the schedule itself, and like I said, where Jets fans should have some optimism, I want to give you some teams that started 0-1, that didn't have very good week ones, and where they ended up. And why it's not full-blown panic. It's 1 game, 16 games left, 17 weeks left. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You've got winnable games coming up. 0-1 starts. 1998 Jets. Arguably the greatest Jets team of all time, right? You had, of course, the Super Bowl III team, but 1998 Jets, talent-wise, arguably the most talented team of all time. They started 0-1. They actually started 0-2, but they started 0-1, went all the way to the AFC title game. 2010 Jets started 0-1, went all the way to the AFC title game. So those are some Jets teams. And they weren't very good losses either, right? Go to that 2010, brutal loss, of course. That Ravens game where they lost 10-9. Nothing going on in that game, no offense at all. Right? For either side. Losing 10-9 home opener after Hard Knocks, that was a huge, huge letdown. But they ended up rattling off, of course, 5 straight after that. They went into their, I believe it was the week 7 bye, 5-1. Finished the year 11-5, got to the AFC title game. 1998, 0-2, finished the year 12-4, AFC title game. Some non-Jets teams, we'll go in order. 2014 Patriots. They started out 0-1. They went on the way to win the Super Bowl. Patriots actually that year started out pretty poorly. Blown out on week 1, lost by 2 scores in week 1, and then week 4 got blown out 41-14 to the Chiefs. They were 2-2. They ended up finishing the year 12-4. So they got off to a 500 start through the first 4 weeks with 2 really bad losses in the conference. That's another thing if you want to look at this from a positive angle, it was a non-conference opponent, and it's your toughest opponent. You get them out of the way. Some others, 2020 Bucks, right? The Brady team. I think this is the most realistic comparison because the 2020 Bucks went all in with Brady. The Jets are going all in with Rodgers. It's very similar. I think if you're a Jets fan and you want to look at some of these former teams, one to compare the Jets to would be the 2020 Bucks. Built very similar, both built with all-in rosters, both built on Hall of Fame quarterbacks near the end of their career, trying to get a little bit more last magic out. Well, that 2020 Bucks team would be a great example. They started 0-1. We all remember that Saints game. Not exactly a good start. Brady threw 2 picks in that game. Wasn't a great outing for him. They started 0-1. After that, they rattled off 3 straight. Now, the Bucks that year, if you go back to it, they were 7-5 at their bye week. Not a very good start. Now, they finished strong. They went 11-5, but really the first 11 weeks were kind of up and down. They were an average team. And then they turned it on late, won 4 straight, went into the playoffs, got hot. We all know 4-0 in the playoffs with the wild card, all that stuff, beating the Chiefs. So Bucks 2020, lost week 1, were really average for the first 12 games, and then turned it on final 4 weeks. They won the Super Bowl. 2023 Chiefs last year, week 1 loss in their home building. I know they were missing Kelsey. I know they were missing Chris Jones, but in their own building, they lost to the Lions. They came out and they won the Super Bowl. So 98 Jets, 2010 Jets, both lost week 1, both got to the AFC title game. 2014 Patriots, 2020 Bucks, 2023 Chiefs, all lost week 1, got to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. So teams that lose week 1 doesn't mean the season's over, especially when you look at the Jets schedule. You've got Will Levis and the Titans coming up. If you're really feeling down, Jets fans, Will Levis and the Titans lost to the Bears last week, who didn't throw for 100 passing yards. They threw for under 100 passing yards, and they found a way to lose. Then you have the Patriots. I know they went on the road, but come on now. Home opener, MetLife Stadium. If the Jets beat the Titans, that place is going to be louder than it was on week 1 last year. The Jets should dominate the Patriots. I don't care if they went on the road and beat Cincy. They should dominate them. And the Broncos, Bo Nix did not look very good in his debut, they then get them. And then the Vikings, who I know look good, but it's the Giants. How much can you really take? We'll have a much better idea of what Sam Darnold and the Vikings are in 3 weeks from now. Vikings get the Niners, so that'll be a pretty large test for them. And then you get the Bills, then you get the Steelers, then you get some tough matchups after that. But we talked about it. You lose to the Niners, all right. You should still be ideally 4-1 going into that Bills game. There's no reason why this team should not be able to win the next 4 games in a row. No reason. I think anything less, 3-2, it depends on how you get there. Maybe you have those London games are always weird. I don't know. Maybe you trip up there. Maybe the Vikings are better than what everybody expected, and Darnold's having a really good year, and you trip up and you're 3-2. But anything less than that, you're 2-3. I don't know how the heck you would get to that point. I think 4-1's pretty realistic to expect. So, believe me, I'm frustrated, and I am angry. I mean, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. That's what it is. And it feels like time right now is moving so slow because we waited all this time for last night. They lose, and now we got to wait. It's just so annoying because the defense got torn up, and it's frustrating because you wait all that time, you get blown out. But you got to look at it from an angle of Rodgers looked good. He came out healthy. The Jets came out relatively healthy. And you got to believe in this coaching staff, this defensive coaching staff, which is an actual strength of this team, to bounce back from last week, to adjust from what happened last week, and chalk it up to NFC champs, toughest team on the schedule, week 1, rust. But no more excuses. That's it. No more justifying losses. You lose next week, forget about it. Then problems. But we're not going to have that happen. We're going to win next week. It's got to be the mindset. So that'll do it for episode 381. Make sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below on the New York Jets and where they stand after last night. We'll have a couple more episodes coming up the rest of this week. Thursday, we will discuss with a Titans content creator. We will preview Jets Titans. Quick turnaround. Obviously, yesterday game, quick turnaround here. It's already Tuesday. So we're rolling here. 3 games, 11 days to start the season, 1 game down, 2 more games to go, 2 games in the next 9 days, including the home opener on Thursday night, 9 days from now. So a lot of football. That is, I guess, one positive is we don't have to wait too long for the Jets to play again. It's not like they lose and then, it's not like they lost the Sunday game. We got to wait all the way until Monday night to see him again. No, we get to see him Sunday afternoon and then Thursday night. So I guess that's the one thing about losing here is it is nice to be able to bounce back quickly. You don't have to worry about waiting too long. But anyway, that'll do it. We will see you back here with more content coming your way the rest of the week as start to quickly shift your focus to the Tennessee Titans. As always, hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, Jets, Jets.